Have you brought any fruits or vegetables onto the planet?
2 weeks.
Excuse me?
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
We're sorry to keep you waiting. All our advisors are with you as soon as possible.
My apologies, people. It has been 2 weeks since my my last podcast. I've been very busy. My work outside of acting and filmmaking has really ramped up. So that's meant I've had a lot less time to really go into this podcast and do the things that I'm needing to do. Also, it's kind of interesting because I'm up to the podcast where I talk about taking a bit of a break from filmmaking, because we're going back and doing a bit of a journey over the last decade before I start moving forward, but we'll get into that right after the music. So let's get going. Thanks so much for joining me, and we'll get into the podcast right after this. Greetings, friends and fans. Welcome to the T. Maxwell Smith podcast. I'm T. Maxwell Smith, and this is my diary where I journal my path through the film industry and make myself accountable to my goal of creating 2 feature films by the end of the decade. For diary purposes, the date is July 19th, and my weight today is 98.9 kilos, so I have put on a little bit of weight there. I have a feeling that's got to do with some of the medication that I'm still taking for my back, and I've had a few issues with that as well over the last week. 2 weeks. And for official purposes, that clip that started out the podcast today, Total Recall. Great film from 1990, I believe, with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arguably one of his best films. Obviously, The Predator's the best. But, anyone should really watch the original Total Recall film with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Back from when films were fun and exciting and crazy, and you could have very, very bizarre sequences like this 2 weeks section. Okay, so going to start off by talking about what's happened in the last 2 weeks in terms of what I've been doing in the industry, or how I've been progressing on certain things that I've been working on. And so firstly, I have actually redone up my resume because I've applied for some work outside, because I've got work at the moment, a full-time job. And I've actually gotten my resume ready to apply for other jobs, because I've seen some really good video jobs that are casual and permanent part-time as well, so that I'm looking at applying for those to sort of have my main work be more in line with what I'm wanting to do. My work that I have had, I've recently done some training with it, which hasn't been the best. It's very, very complicated what I'm now expected to do there. But I can't really explain a lot of that job. Very much like acting, I'm bound by non-disclosure agreements about my work, so I can't explain that in detail. Not supposed to advertise what I've been doing. So, key point. Yep, got my resume ready. I've applied for some work in video fields, so that's good. Also, one of the main platforms that I've used over the last 10 years basically has been the platform of Star Now, and they've brought out a new feature, basically a chat to camera. If you're in the industry, you know what a chat to camera is, but basically it's a delivery of, you're kind of like a presenter talking to a camera, and the video from that is sort of like a headshot. It's the first video that people would see, and so I've had a bit of a setup for that. I'm not really happy with everything with it, but I'll probably be doing that again, because I have recorded one in the last week just gone. What else over the past week? 2 weeks. So also I have definitely applied to some work on Star Now. In terms of productions, I bumped into a gangster. Still a little bit of a hold on that one in terms of hard drive space on my computer. As I said, I've got a 20 terabyte hard drive, which has got it's got all of the files on there. But I'm increasingly aware that I need to look about, sort out redundancy and having some extra hard drive space as a working drive. So I've been doing a lot of research into, extending my my hard drives there so that I've got a few large scale drives. So if something happens to one, I've got everything backed up. As I said, I have had another drive, a 5 terabyte drive, that has stopped working on me, and I still haven't looked into getting the data recovered from that one. Yes. So that's production number 2. Production number 1, my horror film. I've got sort of the first act laid out in outlining form. So when writing a script, you will start with an outline, which is basically a very simple summary of how it goes together. All of the key points are there, because if you just start writing a script and you start with your fade in and then you talk about what the scene is and everything, then you're going to get caught up in the details of what you want in the scene as opposed to what's important for the film. So I always do an outline first, going over the scene, so I've got all of the connective points together so that I know how the film is going to end before I really get into the nitty-gritty of writing the details. Because if you know exactly where the story's ending, all of the key points, then you can really layer the important plot points out to have that ending feel more satisfied. I think that's one of the biggest issues with a lot of films that aren't in the kind of top tier. So someone who's, a lot of starting out films, one of the things they're really missing is the key plot points along the way to lead to the ending. Yes, so wow, 7 minutes in and I haven't even discussed what I'm talking about in the video. So hopefully this isn't a long episode, but what we're going to be talking about today is the kiss of hot metal and taking a break. And that is because after meeting Mikey, we did the music videos, I was living in a share house and I had started a casual job that allowed me a lot of work on weekends. It was actually in a theme park, and so it was really, really busy on the weekends and really, really quiet throughout the week. So with that, I was able to was able to have a lot of time through the week, which was really handy and allowed me to formulate some ideas together. And I thought, if I've got 5 days a week that I'm really got to be able to put into productions, then what could I do over a period of 10 weeks? And myself and one of the members of the household, Adam Brook, decided that it would be really fun to try and put together a TV pilot, a pilot episode about, the story was called Kiss Hot Metal. So that's where obviously the title of this one came from. It's The Kiss of Hot Metal. And it was an ambitious project. I've got another podcast coming up about being ambitious, but one of the biggest issues with this one is that we were really going with what was available. We were trying to make things as cheap as possible. In terms of the production side of it, I mean, I had a lot of equipment then. I still had a lot of lights, but they were old school lights. They were redheads and blondes. Now, that was basically TV lingo for. There's redheads, which are 800 watt lights, and these are halogen lights. They pulled a lot of power. And then there was also the blondes. So the redheads were 800 watts, and the blondes were 1,000 watt. Halogen bulbs, and so I had quite a few of those that I'd got for Kiss Hot Metal to just, because one of the things that really makes something pop visually on screen is the way in which it's lit. So, whilst I didn't necessarily have the best camera or things at the time, I was really focusing on the visuals and making it look like a high production value production because we had the ability to paint with light. But there was a lot of issues that came out of that. One of the main actors I had to fire about 3 days into filming. Just cleaning some dust off my thing here. It started up the music. Yeah, so fired an actor in the first 3 days of production when we had, I think it was 10 days of filming that was initially set out to film the first episode, and from there we would build on those other episodes. And I really liked the script that came together. I wrote the script for the pilot, and Adam was going to be writing the stories moving further on. And the script was really good. It was actually because we weren't paying the actors, but we did have them under. Most of them, I think, were under contract, or there was some contracts definitely signed. But one of the actual main villain of the piece was, I'm not going to say the names, but the actor that was involved, that had signed on to be the main villain, disappeared out of the state for, we originally set aside 10 weeks. It was meant to be a full school term, and basically throughout the week when things were quiet, we could really look at filming a lot of sequences, and we did what we could. But when your main villain decides to disappear for 7 of those 10 weeks, it then begins the process of filming very specific things that are around that. You're trying to film around not having someone there, and when there was such an important character, it was not the best. And when I fired the first actor, then I jumped into the role that was played by that actor, and I'm not a fan. I think it was after Blue 43 that I really decided that I didn't want to be involved in too many things. I didn't want to make anything on a large scale where I was a director and producer as well as an actor. It's a very difficult line to thread, while especially being on a low budget low budget project. When everyone's relying on you as a director, and then you have to jump into the scene as an actor and, be able to hit those marks all the way that you want, without necessarily having the rehearsal time that's required. It's complicated. So I've tried not to do that. And the only time I do that is when I'm working with people that I really, really trust. And Kiss Hot Metal, I was forced into it. I didn't really want to do that part of it, but I'm disappointed that for the script, because the script is really, really good. We had some great season, we planned out the first season as to what would happen, and a lot of things were set up in the first episode that didn't necessarily seem like they were big plot points. There was obviously some that were big plot points, but a few years later, when I met Justin, my best friend, the other person who I describe as my best friend, both Mikey and Justin, and they're very different. Mikey, great with ideas and just putting things out very, very frequently, whereas Justin is more methodical. He'll take an idea and really delve deep and put in the time to create a great script. But I'll talk about Justin in the next episode, because it was when meeting him that I really came back after this slump. But Kiss Hot Metal sort of stopped me from doing productions for a little while because of how wrong it went. But there was, as I said, it was a great script. When I met Justin, I showed him the script for the first episode. He was like, okay, wow, that's a really interesting concept and how that story arcs. But he didn't see from the script how it was going to lead into what was happening going forward. There was obviously a very big, climax that happened at the end of the first episode, and there would be repercussions, but he didn't know where the next episodes would really go, how it fed into a big story. And so I showed him the script for the second episode, which wasn't written by me, but I have a feeling it's not going anywhere, so I'm sure Adam's okay with me showing that on. And at that point, Justin was like, wow, that was really thought through. And, there's actually some videos on YouTube. I'm not going to link to them because they're, kind of a bygone era. But, where we really took took the time. We had big meetings to work out who was connected to who and how things were working, because it was a story that took place over a number of years. It was taking place in the present day, so 2012, 13, 14 sort of time. But it also had sequences that took place 18 to 20 years before that. And so having the connections of which characters were alive in the prior time periods to who was connected in the future time periods, was so much fun. And that's one of the reasons why I love storytelling. It's that building of a world, working out how the connections happen, what happens to who, how people in a certain way will be talking, and how that can lead into different characters having different traits. And there was I want to explain the story, but I'm kind of hanging on to it because I think that it may be something interesting to revisit in the future. But also the title, Kiss Hot Metal, a lot of people were sort of like, what a weird title. But it was a title of marketing, much like fair trade. I actually looked through a lot of analytics on YouTube as to what people were looking up. And that seems like a strange, how were they looking up that? It was sort of each word was popular. And so together they sound very strange. The kiss of hot metal, that was actually going to be a plot point about some of the gangsters, and there was a difference in the faction of gangsters as to they were all branded in some way. And so that moment when someone was branded, then that would be the kiss of hot metal. That's how they would refer to it. And I really liked that project, but the downfall of not having one of the lead actors, we tried filming special effects sequences where we could literally put the actor back into other scenes that we'd filmed, and whilst it was all looking okay, it was just a complicated process and took far too much time, and it really dampened my spirits in terms of production and what I wanted to do. And so I really stepped back and didn't do any short films for quite a while. I also had my job, which as I said, I was working weekends, but I could definitely work throughout the week as well if I wanted to. I was one of the main people at that theme park for quite a while, sort of the face of a lot of the customer service stuff, and so I could really get into that. And so that sort of leads into where we'll be going in the next episode. Hopefully it won't be 2 weeks away. It should be next week, but I also do have some plans next weekend. So yes, next week we'll talk about meeting Justin. Yes, Justin's a good friend, and I'll probably go through. I'll talk about that next week, because there's a lot of things in terms of getting back into productions, getting back into writing, getting back into all of those things, and Justin was a big part of that process. I was really trying to use my skills in media, in the workplace that I was at the theme park, and trying to assist with marketing and things like that, and was having a lot of pushback there, which is, I'll go into that next week. My time in the theme park, I was actually yesterday. I was at Justin's house again, and there was quite a few people that had worked at Aussie World. Oh, yeah, well, that's the name of the theme park. On the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, we were working at Aussie World. There was quite a few people that had worked there at our meeting yesterday. Not really meeting, it was just a gathering. There was a whole bunch of us there. We had lunch and reminiscing, and I really do miss a lot of the work, but at the same time I'm very, very glad that I'm out of there, in terms of just I don't want to talk bad about them, but there was some things that I wasn't happy with, so complicated. They were just complicated. But as I said, I've met a lot of my really, really good friends there, and that led me back after taking on quite a break. It would have been 3 to 4 years between Kiss Hot Metal and the next major sort of production that I was involved in. Okay, well, I feel like I've rambled on a little bit, probably said more than I should say, but yes. If you're wanting to follow me on Facebook, it is at tmaxwellsmith.actor. On Twitter and Instagram, you can find me at T_Maxwell_Smith. And if you want to jump over to my website, it is tmaxwellsmith.com. There's information on the podcast here, and hopefully I can get to doing some more work on that soon. Anyway, we'll jump into the ending, and I hope you've enjoyed it today. Thanks so much for coming along.